And here we go. For better or for worse. Let us go. We are on Facebook Live. Halloween 2022. Lunar eclipse is happening. Saddle up. We have Venus conjunct the sun today, called a Kazimi. I got my magic wand, my beautiful decorum, Halloweeno decorum, palorum, magnificus. My sacred sound bowls. I'm sorry, that's a little. We are working up the Holy Ghost on this Halloween. The veil is at its thinnest, they say. Why? We'll look into that. We'll talk about what's happening astrologically, and as above, so below. We want to sync up with reality, with science. We are making sacred holy space. We are magicians. We are priests and priestesses of the Most High. Ay, 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 ay. Where's my incense holder? Do we have the dashboard set up? No comments yet. All right. No viewers. That's okay. That's okay. Maybe people will see this on the respin. Oh, it is good. It is good that we are here. How magnificent and wonderful it is. This experience of the full spectrum. Life. Death, my friends. And this is a season where the Latin term memento mori comes into play. Remember your death. Hopefully not morbidly. See, mori, morbid. More is like maul, bad, ugly death. A mortuary. Now, in Scorpio season, the sun is betrayed with a kiss of death. The sting of a Scorpio leaves what looks like lips, and shortly after, the victim will go to its death. On its way to its death at this winter solstice, it's also the birth. That is the great mystery that Scorpio reveals to us, initiates us into. Life and death situations. And when we come out of it, we may have a renewed perspective on the world, on what is really important and what isn't. That can be intense situations, intense relationship stuff. Scorpio is becoming one with the other. The two snakes on the caduceus becoming one. It's the sexual act. It's other people's stuff. It's like investments. It's what's going on behind the scene. It's the first sign behind the curtain of Libra, of the equinox. It's a fixed sign, so it fixed in the energy of fall, of falling, and it's also fixed air done through water. That together, the air is the breath of God. This is in Libra season, they say Adam and Eve was created. It's this metaphysical, cosmological story that has meaning for our own makeup because we are synchronized. This is, and it's science, really. It's the working of the elements. Fire, earth, air, water. You go to our modern makeup of elements. We're still doing the Platonic way of doing it. And Plato got it from Egypt to ancient Babylon. It's namely the four elements of fire, earth, air, and water, and then how we get them. Either starting off the beginning, cardinal of a season, or we get that element fixed in the middle, or we get that element mutable at the end. The Trimurti, God the generator, the creator, God the operator, the sustainer, God the destroyer, or the changer. And that happens by the workings of our seasons. And the seasons is the relationship of the sun, light, consciousness, action, life, my friends. We're a big part of the elemental structure of life, mostly associated with light, life-giving light. So, just as that affects the earth, our bodies are the earth, my friends, filled with a lot of water as well. And then we have the fire through the air into the waters and then into earth at last. And that's how creation, things come into existence, or at least we came into existence. So that's a scientific proposition. And it plays out true, even by modern scientists. Tell us that what are the four main elements? Carbon would be earth. Water, hydrogen. Air, oxygen. And fire, which is the most mysterious of them all, a plasma. Fire. The fire is worshipped throughout all the ages. And the sun as well. We've been so disconnected from that. And that's disconnected us from ourselves, from others perhaps even. So a way that we do connect with reality, nature, from whence we came into, our bodies will return. There's the idea that the sun, that we're in Kabbalahism and Hermeticism, that we are all pieces of the sun. That's crazy. Structured by Saturn. Saturn would be carbon. 666 is its like elemental number, which goes to 18. And 18 is the number of the moon, along with 13 and 2. Now, 2 is what this eclipse is showing up as. It's on the second degree of Scorpio. A 2 is like pillars. And in the second card of the tarot, we have the priestess Isis at the entrance of the temple to bring you into the mysteries. And it's the female energy that you have to get in touch with, which is your intuition, your imagination. They say that our greatest expression of God is our imagination. And does everything have an imagination? The teachings are that everything is alive and conscious, just at a different level. So we have the human consciousness, hopefully, animal consciousness, vegetation consciousness, and then mineral consciousness. Scorpio is a season for deep, more psychology than philosophy. We get to philosophy more when we get into Sagittarius season, because it's moving fire and air, so it's more mental. Right now, as we step into Scorpio season, it's going to be more emotional. The waters and the air combining. We get the breath of life in the Ruah, which is spirit of God, in Libra, which is why the ecclesiastical New Year in Judaism starts in Tishret, the first month of fall. The civil year that starts in the first season of the year, which is Aries. That's just interesting. So they set up their religion by the moon, lunar, and they set up their civil society by the sun. So if you really want to try to break these freaking curses, see what the freaking moon is doing, learn about it. It's our emotional mind. And it gets manipulated so much and attacked through intentional trauma to keep us. When we're traumatized, we fracture. And we're weak when we're separated. Is there not a concentrated effort to divide us at every freaking stop? Does it seem like there's at least that energy playing in the world? Scorpio season is going and talking about things that are uncomfortable at the dinner table. The taboo. There's also something about ancient cultures, especially in India, who sleep in graves. This is very scorpionic. This is one way to achieve moksha, which is relief from the wheel of samsara. Is just breaking all the social norms and taboos, which is kind of breaking through the illusory duality of things. And so they get to that unity, which is at the same time a nothingness and an all oneness, moksha, nirvana, once you break through that duality of good and evil even. And then so these dark freaking occultists, what they do is they take that philosophy that ultimately there is no such thing as good and evil, or that they're both necessary. And then so they justify doing evil stuff. This is time to peel back the curtain, and sometimes you're going to see some stuff you don't want to see. You'd rather not. It's the underbelly of society. It's the red light district. But it's also that young prostitute who has to sell her body. And in her own way, she's a freaking priestess. It's finding beauty. The underdog story is a very scorpionic type thing. The resurrecting from the dead is a scorpionic thing. The metamorphosis, the moth, the butterfly, the snake eating its own tail, losing its skin, and regenerating. It's ultimately the magician. The esoteric ruler is Mercury. The traditional ruler, Mars. It's the warrior spirit of Mars, which Aries expresses more outwardly because the sun is exalted there, as opposed to Mars in the water in the fall season. The Scorpio archetype energy is fighting with one arm left and 1 foot and hopping around and still killing motherfuckers and then healing them at the same time. It was like, it's deep. The Scorpio is often, it's a detective energy like Virgo. Virgos have that detective energy. There's a great relationship between Virgo and Scorpio. The Virgin stepping on the head of the serpent, of the snake, of the Scorpio is in the heavens, and it makes its way into our religious myths and narratives because I think of that story that's telling us in the heavens. And it stings her foot. Or sometimes it stings the heel of Castor and Pollux. It's Jacob holding onto the heel of Esau in the Bible story. And that star at the bottom left foot of Gemini is called the mark. It would be the mark of Cain and Abel. The Achilles heel. It's like, here's a very scorpionic thing. Uncomfortable to talk about. I'm gonna do it. Scorpio is like getting a STD. That's such a scorpionic thing. Scorpio is in charge of the genitalia and disease, but also healing. So it's like, you could have this sexual promiscuity from an abuse, sexual abuse, a scorpionic thing. Rape, my friends, a scorpionic thing. It's Hades taking down Persephone into the underworld. But without perverting and rather purifying the beauty out of the beast. That's an alchemical process, and it takes a breaking down first, which is the scorpionic stage. But it's also the rubido. It's bitter. It's kind of can be a time for mourning, a good time for emotional purging, crying. I know. If you can't cry about not being able to cry, and then that can be followed, and often is, by tears of joy. It's the initiatory process where they bring you into a tomb and bury you. For 3 days, you have to stay in that tomb. And that would be the 3 months of winter. And then on the 3rd day, you rise in the 1st month of spring. So this is the courage to go into the dark cave. There's a ritual in Masonry, I'm pretty sure, and in other cultures, where you put your hand in like a black, crevice in a rock, and like at the side of a mountain, and you're told there's a diamond in there, but you have to get through spiders, tarantulas, and then how do you do it? They can't. They'll bite you only if they smell fear on you. But if you focus enough on what? On the... It's not just the illusory of death, because death is very real. But it's ultimately coming to a place of peace with death and knowing there's an illusory side of it. That our light, our spark, doesn't succumb to the death that the physical realm seemingly does. And the physical realm is just an emanation of the spiritual world of the mind. It all starts in the mind, and then it comes into fruition. So, how can we get our mind right in this season? We have a beautiful conjunction in the sky of Venus. The feminine aspect. Beauty, truth, justice, goddess of the heavens, the bright and morning star. She's going to be going from her morning star phase back into her evening star phase. What does that mean? It goes from her morning aspect is Lucifer, the light bearer, and then she becomes Vespers, where Emperor Vespasian is named after, which is the Vesper prayers that the monks say are the evening prayers. And this is Venus as the evening star. And she's beautiful. She brings up the sun in the morning and then is in charge of sunsets. She's never that high in the sky. She's low and close to Earth. So she's associated with Earth as a ruler of Taurus. Exalted in the moon because the moon is the other closest object to Earth. The mothers are close to us. The father is far away, Jupiter and Saturn. The Dark Father, Darth Vader, is Saturn. But right now, we want to focus on Venus, because the sun, who is the projector of the heavens, the space is the black room, the actors are the planets, the silver screen's the moon. That makes us emotionally, it can emotionally manipulate us, or that's the moon. It's how it works the waters of our tides of our emotions, the movement of how we emote. So it's exalted in Taurus, fixed Earth, because it helps us to, it's reminding us that we are best when we can fix our emotions and ground our emotions, not let them be too filled with fire, action, not too filled with air, thought, but to go into our heart more space, and not the heart where the heart grounded in the nurturing, the nourishment, and the balance, the structure, the foundation of Earth, giving our emotions a good vessel, which is formed by proper thought and proper action. And then that leads to our emotions is our guide. It's like the ship on the ocean. And we are on that ship. That ship in Argo, Jason, the Argonauts, there's a constellation Argo, which is in the bottom of the heavens on the waters, going above Hydra, the sea monster. Above it are Corvus, the crow, and then over that, another constellation is Columba, which is the dove, flying away from the ship, which got turned into the story of Noah's Ark. And that's an ancient Mesopotamian, Iranian, Babylonian, Sumerian myth. Now, today we want to pay special attention to the planet Venus. And why? Because the sun is coming together with her in the heavens. So we can't see her. She's blotted out. She's behind the curtains, the light with the sun. It's a new seeding of Venus, a new seeding of what? Of what we value. A new seeding of our relationships, which is good because it's about to go into Scorpio, where it's the consummation of the marriage. Libra is marriage season, ruled by Venus. So the fact that Venus and the sun come together in the last degree, which is called an aneretic degree in astrology, because you're going to feel the full force of Libra, almost leaving behind a gift, but it could be like Pandora's box. Before it leaves, it's going to give you, it's like the sprinkling of rose petals on after the marriage on the way to the bed to consummate your marriage, which is Scorpio. That's when you have sex. And when you have sex and you conceive in Scorpio season, you'll give birth in Leo season, and that's why you'll see often imagery of a lion head with a body of a serpent. This is an indication. It's also a demon or Kako demon called a Yaldabaoth, which is the serpent-bodied lion head deity, resembling this truth. And then sometimes it also has wings, because another symbol of Scorpio is the eagle. And that is because it is in the air section of the year, fire being spring, earth being summer, air being fall, water being the winter signs, the fish of the Pisces in the water of winter, the water bear, Aquarius, the air sign in the water season. And then we have the cardinal earth in water season, which is Capricorn, which is earth and water together as a clay from whence man was birthed. The birth of Christ happens at the winter solstice, where we meet the womb and the tomb. And it's the exiting of the womb is simultaneous, happens right after the entrance into the tomb. That is a fact of life, and that's going to play out on many other levels, that death and the rebirth. So what do we want to die to and to be reborn into? We do it by taking past experiences and gaining wisdom from them, and that will be enacted in the sign of the Guru of Jupiter and Sagittarius. But right now, it's more of the intervention phase. It's where, imagine your whole heavenly family shows up when you come home from the bar. Your heroin shooting up in a freaking motel like for 3 days, and you come home and your whole family's there doing an intervention. And you break down and you cry on the ground. You do a bunch of purging. You're shaking. And then it's an exorcism. And you release that demon. And then a new spirit comes in, which is that spirit of old, of ancient, the ancient one that was there for the whole thing, and that will always be there no matter what. And then that crying turns into an hysterical laughter when once realizes that ultimate truth. And then trust can be put on that. And that be a source for strength going through this valley of darkness. This sun's tasting the bitterness of death. Which is why on the cross, Jesus was given bile or vial. It's something like a poison. It's a bitter tasting liquid. It could be spiked wine and myrrh. And this was to, like, an anesthetic to lighten the pain of death. And he denied it, I believe. That goes back into other myths and stuff, but what it is, it's a dying and a rebirth story that were used in other dying and rebirthing mystical cults. And they would bring you through the initiation through acting out like a play, like a passion play of the death of a certain constellation, god, Bacchus, Orion, art, Mithra. Mithra is a big one that goes back ancient. And this is the dying of and the rising of these celestial bodies, since we too are made up of the same nature and partake in the same laws, teach us about the death and the rebirth of life. Will one day the sun, what it does, it actually consumes itself. It's the Son of God is dying in the heavens, turning hydrogen into its fission process, and through that, it's giving us life. So through the sun dying in the heavens, it's giving us life, and it's perfectly balanced with the seasons, which is why we celebrated that perfect balance at the equinoctial points. And then the other great measurement is the solstices. That's the great cross that the sun has to put itself on. It's also a symbol of earth and its four elements. Just talking to a camera. I want to pick some tarot cards to prepare us and to strengthen us in our own diving in to the darkness of feeling. Some would rather just avoid the emotional realm altogether, and that is not conducive to a life fully engaged in. We came here to experience emotions, I think. It's the only thing that separates us from a freaking machine, right? Likened to a soul, a spirit in the sea. The words sea and soul are synonymous. The Pope is in charge of the Holy See. Fuck him. He's not in charge of my soul. Birds are chirping. Halloween is lurking. The veil between heaven and earth is at its very thinnest. It's the 7th day into Scorpio season. Which marks like the middle points of the season. So it really embodies that energy at its strongest. The oracle card that wants to speak to us. Child of the cosmos. I need a camera that I'll explain it to you. It's a beautiful freaking lady at one with the freaking cosmos. A young lady. And she is in a state of peace and rapture. That's a good way to turn rapacious energy, once directed in the waters of infinite mercy, feeling that trusting in that net when we drop ourselves into the abyss, that what is there to catch us is the beautiful goddess Arachnid and her web that she weaves lovingly for us. The story and its structure. Venus. The planets are likened to web weavers. So let us weave in love. love for our fellow man in all their imperfections, because don't we have our own imperfections? But also setting up healthy boundaries. It's about detoxifying on an emotional level. Virgo seasons, detoxing and purifying physically. Now, this is more the time of that detoxifying and purifying emotionally. By looking at the uglier things in the world, by digging them up, dusting them off, and finding a beautiful pearl. The whole idea of digging into earth to bring out oil, and how that's the blood of this earth. Scorpionic as shit. Hades or Pluto. Pluto is synonymous with Hades and the Lord of the Underworld. And riches. Yeah. Because it's asking us also psychologically, the psychological analytical method, Scorpionic, going into our emotional mind. And it's a diving into it. Sometimes a falling. Let it be a most blessed fall, for when we rise from our earthly death, we are born into eternal life. Oh, abracadabra. Abracadabra is one of the oldest actual magical things. One of the most magical thing you could do is start off with the vowels. Go through all the vowel sounds, and then bring it to a consonant, which is like an earth, like a is in the middle. So it goes I think you A, go for a hard A first. No, you want to start with I, E, I, O, U, U. Yeah, it's just go try chanting the vowels. The deepest ones, the ooh, ooh, that's deep, ooh, deep's a little bit higher up. This shit's crazy, dog. It's so beautiful. The bass sound is Saturn and Jupiter, and it goes all the way up to it. Mercury is the highest one. Ding, 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 ding. I was just reading the Sefer Yetzirah, which is on the Hebrew language and its construction, which is from Akkadian and Aramaic and Babylonian, Chaldean. But very much lots of it taken from Egypt as well. And anyways, language is freaking magical. There's stories of creating a rabbi, a sage, a Kabbalist, a magician, using clay, a mixture of water and air. Water and earth. And then breathing into it life with shin, or ruah. There's a letter for that. And then making a golem. An artificial human being. And I don't want to get too deep into that because it's pretty fucked up, actually. But Frankenstein is similar. It's built on the story of a golem. I actually have videos on golems. It's a lot. We have the moon at 23 degrees of Virgo today. That's the moon's esoteric place to be is in Virgo, which is the goddess Artemis shows us that. Because it's the moon who's and Earth together. So then we want to focus on bringing fire and air together in the best way we can. And that happening. The Sun and Venus conjuncting on the last sign of the last note of air sign Libra is giving us a new mental, like, just our vision of life and relationships could just be given a new coat of love paint. Yeah. It's like, imagine your relationship as a painting, and then imagine it being put through a filter that makes all the colors more vibrant and a feeling of warmth and love to it. As it's getting ready to get sent into the world of death, Scorpio. Yeah, that could be something to be afraid of, or something to fully engage in. Sometimes that takes a surrendering and a death of the ego to fully engage with somebody else. To pay attention to how we might be manipulative or being manipulated on a grander scale by thoughts that we have. There's certain ways of thinking that are toxic, and how might be a judge of that of our feelings, our emotional state of mind, water and air, so that we could best shine our light, fire, warmth to this earth. What a beautiful thing. Passionately engaging it, having sex with life in all its imperfections, endless, infinite forgiveness, compassion, mercy is waiting for us in this season. And let it strengthen us as we move through the darkness of winter, that we might have that light kindled within us so we can warm all others whom we might come across. Sabracadabra.